Hello everyone and welcome to the day after Christmas. I almost said Thanksgiving. So today Chef Teddy, I know. Chef Teddy's a little bit more lazy than usual. He's a little bit more tired. So he has requested that we make something nice and simple and easy. And today that thing is going to be cabbage. The cabbage is right back there. We are going to be using a purple cabbage. And Chef Teddy said that I get to take over, so we're just going to put on our adult pants and get to it. So when cooking anything really, the very first step that you should be doing is washing your hands. Once we wash our hands, we wash the cabbage. So let's come right forward here so that you guys can watch me wash the cabbage. Wash our hands. Excuse me that I have some dishes in the sink. I just had a little bit of a meal before this. I had some leftover queso dip, and I put it with brown turkey, and then we put it with rotel as well. So that was really delicious. We will get to this like you always should. You should always clean your dishes. Always clean your dishes. But for right now, we are just going to put them to the side because we want the cabbage to be here. So we're going to focus on the cabbage. We're going to wash it. Just going to wash it, get inside all the leaves, the roots, and everything. Once we wash it, we're going to transfer it to the cutting board. Right back over here. Once we've washed it, and yes, this is a clean rag. Once we've washed it, we get our utensils, so a knife, and then we're going to cut it into 4 sections. So now that you've washed your cabbage, washed your hands, and gotten your knife, I'm going to be using this knife. We're going to cut it open. Now be very careful with this step because cutting anything, especially when it's this big, can take a little bit more effort than your normal vegetables like onions. Even though it's not as hard as an onion, it can still be somewhat difficult. So just make sure to be careful when you're cutting into it. And there you have it. So now, what I'm going to do is, I think I saw a video of one person just kind of like snack it onto one of those fryers like that they have for like street food, or like in a kitchen that has one of those big I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It's big and square, and they can put multiple things of food on it. It's usually in the back of a kitchen. So they just smack it down. I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is suggest that, and there are many ways of boiling, or not just boiling, of cooking cabbage, such as boiling, pan frying. Those are the 2 that come to mind. So I'm going to stick with pan frying, with that minus like the breading. And while we're cutting this cabbage, I'm going to be cutting it into probably, for now, 4ths and then maybe 16ths. It just depends on how small you want your cabbage. So we're going to just come over here and turn on the stove. Turn it on low on the double burner. Then we're going to take our smack of butter, smack it in there. And then we're going to cover it up. If you want to cut your cabbage in like smaller bits, also I recommend taking off this little end piece. If you want to cut it into smaller bits, then that's fine. So like if you don't have a home shredder, like I only recently bought a home shredder, so in the past I've had to manually just go in and then just do it like this. And then what I usually do is if I want it nice and small, I just cut it from the center and then I start going towards the corners here. And then if you really want it small, you can get it nice and small. It just takes a lot more cutting. That's kind of what we're going to be doing, except if you do have a food processor, that's what it's called. If you do have a food processor, then just cut it into like what I'm doing, 1/16, maybe even smaller than that. I'm going to be cutting it like this just because I don't want it to be overbearing in the food processor. Once I have that done, I will be right back. So if you are using a food processor, this is what it's going to kind of end up looking like. And just to compare and contrast, it's going to look very different compared to this. It's going to be a lot more fine, and this is more kind of like something I'll put in the soup that I'll be making. For Mom, we're going to be making cabbage soup. Unfortunately, I don't have time to make a video out of it. So today, that's why I had a neighbor who said, hey, could you make a video about cabbage? I'd really like to learn how to cook it. I want to see how you cook it and see if I can be successful at it. So I was like, yeah. And then in my head, I was like, you can be a success if you want to be. I don't know why I don't say these things out loud at the time of, but sometimes it happens like that. Does it ever happen to you guys? Hopefully. Hopefully, you get to say what you want to say at the time that you want to say it, and you don't come back like a million years later like, hey, I meant to tell you this. So, I turned up my pan back here. So, we're just waiting for the butter. I turned it on medium low. I'm just waiting for the butter to melt because I do have to go to work soon. I work at a resort, and it is a very beautiful resort. It's called Forest Hills Resort, and it's a really beautiful resort. We got lots of cabins, and we got little lodges and inns as well. And the inns are we call them an inn, but it's basically still a lodge. And it's all nice and woodsy. You feel like you're out in the woods without being like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything, because we provide all the essentials and all the cabins and everything. And so yeah, I'll see you in a minute. Now that we've transferred it to the pot, what we have to do is let it cook for a while. Personally, I don't use any kind of seasoning on it because for some reason, when I'm cooking this vegetable specifically, which I don't cook it often, but when I do cook it, I don't know, I just feel like it doesn't need seasoning. Is there a vegetable that you guys do that with? I'd really like to know. Because I feel like this one doesn't need any seasoning. I know logically speaking, it probably does, but I'm not going to. It's just not going to happen. I'm literally going to pair it with some chicken that I've seasoned or some other vegetables that I've seasoned. And I like to mix up all my vegetables. So what I'll do is, like, if I have some mushrooms, I'll throw in some mushrooms in here, or some zucchini. What other vegetables are there? Some green onions or normal onions, maybe both. Yeah, I don't know any other vegetables off the top of my head, but I think you guys kind of get my point. And this cabbage can go with anything. It can go real well with anything. So if you want to, in my opinion, again, if like the shredded that I showed you, I'll be shredding the other half. This is only half the cabbage in here. The other half I'll be shredding to put in that soup that I mentioned that I'll be cooking. It's basically just a Russian cabbage soup. It's got potatoes, cabbage, tomatoes. I'd have to look at the recipe. I'm not that familiar with the recipe. Obviously, I've never done it before, so I can let you guys know how it turned out. I'll probably make a short by the end of this week showing how it turned out, and if I personally recommend, eating it. So we're just going to let this cook. And every so often, we get our spoon or utensil and just stir it to make sure that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And it does have a lot of liquid in here, and so that's why it kind of needs to be cooked a little bit more. In case you're wondering, I'm going to be turning this up to level 5. There's 6 levels, so level 5, so that's just above medium high. It's medium high still. Once the cabbage gets a little bit more done, I'll show you guys how that turns out in just a few minutes. Welcome back. Once you see your cabbage start to turn color, you can work on turning it down. I turned mine down to medium low once again. And then remember that you shouldn't really leave the kitchen when you're cooking this. Just keep an eye on it. Stir it every once in a while. In case you're curious of what I mean by changing color, you can see that it has changed color a little bit, like especially right here. It changed color from purple to brown with a little bit of burnt because I was cooking it a little bit too high for a second there. So just don't burn it. But aside from if you want to season it, any seasonings I recommend, no salt as always. If you want it a little bit spicier, I recommend ghost pepper. If you want it a little bit more Italian, I would recommend like using oregano, dill, paprika. I kind of recommend paprika for just about everything anyway, along with dill, just because I don't know why I've been really obsessed with using dill in all of my recipes recently. It just tastes good. Don't know why. It just tastes good. Makes the food stand out a little bit more. So aside from that, you've basically done it. And I would get Chef Teddy to taste it, but we kind of already made an agreement. He said, "Look, this food is up to you today. I really don't want much to do with it because it's not my favorite food." Again, this is what Chef Teddy said. He told me. He said, "Just make it for yourself, and you know what you like. I don't like that vegetable." It's not his favorite vegetable. He mainly likes turkey, chicken, the occasional bacon. So, again, that's all there is to it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you really like this video, please share it. Chef Teddy would really appreciate it. I'm not going to eat this just because it is too hot, but I will be eating this today. Oh, last word of advice, if you do want to use a food processor, I recommend not overfilling it. Just don't overfill it. That way it will actually process the food and you won't have to go back and be like, oh yeah, this happened. It didn't happen, but it happened. Like halfway done kind of situation. So anyway, Merry day after Christmas. Merry Hanukkah. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you next time.